We will have to control Ghorman with a hand firm enough to silence any resistance.
The ultimate use of Ghorman was on the table before any of the construction on it began.
We wanted to hint at a past that was very rich and successful, and that fed into their sort of independence, their pride, and I guess to a certain extent their downfall.
Ghorman was built to be destroyed. I think you have to remember that when you start, and then I think you have to forget it while you build the culture. I mean, you're playing God. We'd seen in season 1 the Empire take down Aldani, which was a sort of easy pickings, a sad, familiar story. You assume that Ferrex is going to suffer accordingly after the rebellion, but the stakes had to be really elevated here. So let's make something really formidable that has to be taken down.
Move out!
It was a blank book. It was a complete void. You knew about the Ghorman massacre. You knew all that history through the canon, but really nobody had been to Ghorman. And so who are these people and what is the culture?
I'm just a designer. I'm curious. Been hearing about Ghorman my whole life.
Okay, we said there's a prosperous planet, and it's formidable, and it has political power and economic power. Well, what do they frickin' do? Maybe it's fabric.
It's a sure thing no matter where you are in the galaxy. You've had your eye on something made of Ghorman twill. Elegance and durability.
It can't be silkworms. It should be something Star Wars. Oh my God, spiders.
The experts have a fancier word. Don't they always? They call them Gorlectopods.
Like beekeepers, they have these webberies. What would that be like, and how could we do that?
So for us as a costume design department, that's a brilliant starting place for creating a whole culture. They take great pride in what they do.
Your showroom is fantastic. 19 generations. One of the youngest twilleries in Palmo.
This is generations and generations of people creating this fabric. For us, it then became more about creating a world of elegance and beautiful things and beautiful people and people who were proud of who they were and how they presented themselves.
Something that Tony and I talked about very early on was like, wouldn't it be great if there was a sort of signature look for Ghorman? The Ghorman trench coat is what everyone sees when they're hustling down the street. They've got their fantastic headwear, a beret, a Ghorman trench coat. It's the sort of thing that, like, if you had traveled to Ghorman, you went back home and you had your Ghorman trench coat, people would say, oh my gosh, is that a Ghorman trench coat?
Man of taste. Best spider on the Plaza. Come back safe.
One of the things that Tony talked about very early days, Paris in the 40s and the 50s, particularly there were interesting conversations about the French underground during the Second World War. It was actually the most real world thing that we've kind of done.
We always knew that it was a new culture and we wanted to create a new language for it. When the French influence came into it, Tony had this great idea. So why don't we cast French people whose natural way of speaking French lends itself for the new language? He started creating alphabets and initially they built a language. Our actors could actually speak and go to each other. And eventually it became fluent.
Gotta have the Plaza, because we know we're gonna have a massacre. Can't do anything we did before. So let's do something like Milan meets Mecca.
You're working within a set that's the size of 2 football fields. And it's a real plaza. It's got a fountain, it's got a hotel, it's got a cafe.
It was obvious to me that that had to be a build. What I always try and do is create what I call composite sets, I suppose. All these individual set costs that would have been sets or separate locations, anyway, just pile into this one pocket. You can really play and prep that properly and not having to think, how does this connect to this and where is this? You know, I walk in this door and, oh, I have to be somewhere else. And then that's when I think it starts to take on a life of its own, because even though you know it's not real, it is Star Wars, it's like it feels real because it is all there.
I mean, at some point you forget that the sets are sets. You're just living within the reality of those film sets, right?
And this whole very close work Tony does with the production designer, it's crucial for this to be, as realistic as a galaxy far, far away can be. When he wrote about a city, it's like if he was writing about New York, you know? He knew exactly, you know, what that plaza, what that street, what that alley, where it was. It makes everything understandable.
It was an extraordinary set to build and it had an extraordinary scale, but really every corner and every inch of it was necessary in the end in order to give it that impact when the Empire suddenly builds barricades and closes it off to make it this pressure cooker with no way out.
We really were working back off this notion that this becomes a killing film.
Close all the exits. Yes, sir.
The way we built the Ghorman Massacre was also about blocking the scenes within that location, sort of, massaging everything that Tony has written on the page to something we could make feel real within that space.
It's that strange thing, is sort of editing, is that, people are always doing things in different spaces at the same time, but in editing it's sort of linear. You can only sort of show that character, then that character afterwards, but really those characters are doing things at the same time. I mean, there's a great example that Cassian goes up the step and Syril comes down it and they don't see each other, which was choreographed that way. But then I still have to sort of continue with Syril around the outside of the guards to the doors and continue with Cassian finding his way, as well as sort of the other characters arriving.
We are the galaxy is watching!
I was very concerned about the timing of the Ghorman Massacre, the amount of time they would spend there, what they would do while they were there. You can only have people go, the galaxy is watching for so long.
You hear me?
Where are you? Repeat, where are you? Talk to me.
There's a sort of rhythm to this stuff, because everyone sort of, for the first third, is doing "We are the gore, we are the gore." So, you can't just cut randomly. It sort of find the rhythm of the shots, find the rhythm of the hands. There was sort of lots of long lensy shots, sort of through the tops of shots to sort of pull focus to the stormtroopers coming down the steps. The most complicated part was probably the transition from "We Are the Gore" to then singing the Ghorman Anthem.
He wrote the national anthem. Nick and I wrote words and music together. I wrote the chorus for it, he wrote the verse, and we listened to a lot of other national anthems.
Honestly, just being in a crowd and us singing together a lot and chanting together a lot, it felt very real. Honestly, I actually have kind of chills.
They were singing the anthem and suddenly, tears well up in their eyes and they're crying. And I'm like, this is such a powerful moment. So I think everyone was having goosebumps those days, and it really felt like we were doing something extraordinary.
That's why the singing was so heartbreaking. It's like they don't think they're being led to the slaughter.
Withdraw! Man down! Get him out of here! Open fire!
De doute que la surprenante unanimité de ces démonstrations a influencé de larges couches.
The Battle of Algiers proved an amazing bedrock visually and also holistically in terms of where we could then start to structure the dynamic of the massacre. I think the photography was a little different to the other episodes. It kind of has its own tone. We did go to 5 cameras some days. I was using a lot longer lenses than the other episodes were using. The episode just didn't let up in terms of energy and physicality.
Always felt to me to be through things where it's sort of slightly dirtier, and I made lots of effort to cut with characters that came in. So I'd always gravitate to that footage where everything was sort of with our characters coming through and people would cross the frames and it'd be messy. It's kind of dirty and messy. I went for a sort of grittier feeling. So you felt slightly like the characters where eventually you're feeling penned in. And I felt like if I'd gone big and wide, it would break that spell.
staging that whole fight was such a character moment for the two of them, because Syril, obviously, he doesn't have the power to fight Cassian, really. He just comes in there like a wildcat. It isn't just, pummeling each other. It's actually bringing your character into how would that fight look like. Faced with the guy he's been chasing now for 20 episodes or however much time it is, and he gets a chance, and at the end, Cassian doesn't even know who he is.
Who are you?
You just see Syril lowering his blazer for a beat, and you see that register in his eyes, and then tragically, he gets blasted by Rylance, where you think, oh my God, this guy probably, regrets everything and wouldn't shoot him. I'd like to believe that Syril would have potentially gone to the rebel side.
It's emotional. It's Star Wars, but leaning on human stories.
Come on, let's go.